Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. This is, I think we're going to call this another quick lick episode. Not quite a lick, though. Today I wanted to introduce some folks to what may be their first experience with an alternate tuning, right? So everybody is familiar with the standard tuning of guitar, you know, E, A, G, D, G, B, E. Right, but you'll see in a lot of the demos, and you can hear in the comments, you know, what tuning is he using there? Well, you know, I wanted to just talk a little bit about probably the most basic and widespread first deviation most guitar players get into away from the standard tuning, and that is, of course, a drop D. And by drop D, what I'm referring to is, you know, we're going to take this E, the low E string, the 6th string, and we're going to pair it to an octave below our D string. And so there's your drop D. We've dropped the E to a D. And what this does is give you this very rich full sound. And so if you haven't played around with drop D tuning, hopefully this will encourage you to try it, play with it, because you can get, you know, you get bored playing your standard 1-4-5 chords or your open chords, and this will force you into thinking slightly different about how you're playing your guitar. And so after you drop this, well, what do? You know, what's neat about drop D is that there's chords that are waiting for you here in a bar chord here between the 4, 5, 6 at the 5th fret. That's your 4 chord. So if this is D, that would be your G chord, right? And then so from D, like what do we talk about? What would that be? From your G up to your A chord, your 5 chord. And it's just these bottom 3 strings that you can get 1-4-5 chords out of very easily without working very hard. And you know, if you got a 1-4-5 chord structure, you got a million songs you can play with that. But what's neat is that there's a bunch of different ways that you can get some other chords out of this structure. And so if we go back to that, instead of just playing the straight bar, what I like to do is come up with my middle and 3rd finger on the 5th fret. And then I come over with my index, so it's almost like an E shape, but I'm really pulling this index over to the 4th fret of the 3rd string to get a 4 chord there. And if I slide this position up a whole step, then I've got a 5 chord. And you'll hear a little funky dissonance, some suspensions in there. And notice my index finger, because it's on the 3rd fret, when I slide it back down, it's already on the right string, and I can jump right back into the D chord. Okay, so why should you care? Why should you care about drop D? Well, because it's really cool tuning that gives you some interesting sounds that you might not be able to get with your standard tuning. And one of the coolest things that I like to do with it, and you've heard it a million times if you've seen the demos, is once I've got that drop D, now I've got this nice little... Those notes right there, which are just moving on the 3rd fret on this 6-5-4 string, can give you a lot of groovy kind of blues sound. Heard something like that before somewhere. So it gives you this nice blues kind of sound. There's a lot of stuff you can do with that sustain that comes out of this low E dropping to the D and just wants to ring for a long time. So that's one reason why drop D is cool. Let's go back to these chords again real quick. I showed you this, you know, index finger on the 4th fret of the 3rd string, middle and ring finger on the 5th fret of the 5th and 6th string here to get this chord, in this case the 4 chord, the G, and then up to get the E, forgive me, if I'm missing my intervals right. But what's cool here is we've got these two chords to get the 1, 4, 5, 1 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, and the 1. Now, a lot of songs have a couple other chords that you might want to use, not least of which, if we go up to the 5 and you go up one step here, we want to get the 6 minor chord. And what I'm doing in this case, I'm keeping the ring finger and middle finger together. I'm going all the way up to the 9th fret. And in this case, instead of having my index finger only a half step behind, I'm moving up and my index finger is a full step behind on the guitar. So 9th fret, 6 and 5 string, 7th fret on the 3rd string. And then they close back up together for the 5 chord, 4 chord. Now I can get to the minor shape. Again, this is a minor chord, right? That sad sound. On the 6 minor, 5 major, 4 major. Now we go 3 minor. And if I notice, these kind of stay together the whole time, right? Through all these chords. The only thing that's changing is the relative position of this index finger on the 3rd string. 2 minor, and back to 1. 1 major, 2 minor, 3 minor, 4 major, 5 major, 6 minor, 7. And what I find so appealing about this ease of the chord structure, moving up and down, is just how good it sounds to my ear for lots of different music. You can do the blues stuff, but the other music I think of is music like Celtic music or other cool folky music. So anyway, the goal here was really just to try and introduce some of the aspects of drop D. And if you haven't played around with drop D, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it. There's some famous songs that utilize it, but most importantly, it's just fun. It's fun to explore new chord shapes and new sounds by something as simple as dropping that E string down to a D. So hopefully this has been a little bit helpful to get you started if you haven't done drop D before. Yeah, but we'll come back and revisit this, I'm sure. Till next time, thanks.